Officer, I know exactly what you're doing, and that's why I've been recording you for the last 6 months. It's 9:47 p.m. on a stormy Tuesday night. Captain Marcus Hale stands rigid beside a battered Honda Civic, his flashlight beam slicing through the rain to land on Elena Brooks. The 37-year-old black public defender holds his gaze without blinking, her words suspended between them like a dare, sharp and unshakable in the thick, waterlogged darkness. How does a veteran public defender with a spotless reputation end up with 3 kilos of cocaine in her trunk during a supposed routine traffic stop? Hale's practiced smirk disappears. Confusion flashes across his features, quickly replaced by simmering rage. His fingers drift toward his holster as the downpour intensifies. This lonely traffic stop on Millfield's east side, usually quiet after dark, has just veered violently off script, blown wide open by Elena's unexpected defiance and documentation. Elena Brooks built her career defending people with nowhere else to turn. In Millfield, a Rust Belt town where the racial divide runs as deep as the abandoned factories ringing its borders. 10 relentless years as a public defender earned her loyalty from clients, but thinly veiled hostility from local cops. She's the daughter of Harold Brooks, a black detective accused of corruption who died by suicide before he could clear his name, leaving rumors and unfinished investigations behind. The Millfield Police Department's history is littered with excessive force complaints and suspicious arrests that overwhelmingly target minorities. In the city's cramped courthouse, these cases grind through a conveyor belt of plea deals and rushed hearings. For months, Elena has been quietly compiling data, arrest records, body cam gaps, charging patterns, documenting a pattern that screams systemic corruption. Each new file tightens the knot in her gut and points her investigation closer toward the officers at the very top. Captain Marcus Hale commands respect, or at least obedience, in Millfield. At 50, with steel gray hair and a perfectly pressed uniform, he projects authority the evening news adores. His community outreach initiatives make great photo ops, and he's credited with slashing street crime by 30%. Behind closed doors, though, Hale runs the department with ruthless discipline and demands absolute loyalty. Internal affairs cases unravel whenever they approach his inner circle, disappearing into bureaucratic fog and fear. 3 separate internal affairs probes into Harold Brooks' case stalled on Hale's desk, then quietly died. At Harold's funeral, when Elena confronted him by the casket, his sympathetic mask cracked. "Your father picked the easy exit," he murmured, so only she could hear. "Smart choice." Those words calcified into fuel. Tonight, as her Honda creeps along Millfield's east side, she deliberately follows back streets she knows are light on patrols, carefully avoiding known police checkpoints and cameras. Rain drums against her windshield while Elena mentally runs through tomorrow's docket. Plea negotiations, suppression motions, another teenager overcharged for a minor offense. Her phone buzzes with a text from her younger sister, Nina, still making it to dinner Sunday. Before she can answer, blue and red reflections explode across her rearview mirror. Her shoulders stiffen as she pulls to the curb, recognizing the silhouette stepping out of the cruiser. Hale. This is no random stop, and she knows it. Hale approaches with deliberate slowness, raindrops rolling off the brim of his hat in shimmering streams. "License and registration, Ms. Brooks," he says, voice smooth, polished for cameras. Only they're alone. Elena's tone stays even, courtroom calm. "What's your basis for the stop, Captain?" He asks for her documents while scanning the interior. In the mirror, her taillights glow bright red. They worked when she left the office. A second patrol car glides up behind her, lights dark. Officer Briggs climbs out of the second cruiser and lingers near the Civic's trunk. A third unmarked sedan eases to a stop across the street, engine idling. 3 vehicles for a broken taillight? "Step out of the car, please," Hale says with a friendly smile that never warms his eyes. "Am I being detained?" Elena asks, pulse jumping. "Just a routine safety check, counselor. You know how procedure works," he replies, hand resting lazily near his holstered gun. "Unless you got something to hide." Elena's mind races. This intersection has no city traffic cameras. She made sure of that months ago. Her phone is already recording audio from the moment the lights flashed, but that won't capture whatever they do out of her line of sight. The storm has cleared the sidewalks of potential witnesses. Through the side mirror, she watches Briggs circling toward the trunk, murmuring into his radio, fingers twitching toward his jacket pocket. Hale's patience thins. "Ms. Brooks, step out now, or I'll consider your refusal non-compliance," he warns. Elena unlocks her door, heart hammering against her ribs. Whatever they've planned, it's well underway. She steps into the rain, cold water soaking through her blazer in seconds. Hale positions himself between her and his patrol car, blocking a clear view of the trunk. "I'm going to search your vehicle," he announces, tone making it clear this isn't actually a request. "You don't have probable cause," Elena replies, legal instincts kicking in. "I do not consent to any search." Hale's expression hardens. "I smelled marijuana when you rolled the window down," he lies smoothly. "That's probable cause." Across the street, a lone figure stands half hidden in a dark storefront doorway. A faint phone glow briefly lights their face. Someone is recording. "That's impossible," Elena protests. "There's no marijuana in my car, and you know it." Hale ignores her. "Check the trunk," he orders. Briggs pops the latch. Elena tries to step toward the rear of the car, but Hale moves in front of her, a wall of damp navy fabric and authority. "Stay right where you are, Ms. Brooks." Behind them, Briggs lifts the trunk, the rain masking his movements as he slides a hand into his jacket and pulls out a plastic-wrapped bundle. Shielding the motion with his body, he tucks it under the trunk's lining. "Captain," Briggs calls, raising his voice, "you'll want to see this." Hale's mouth twitches, the suggestion of a satisfied smile flashing before he rearranges his features into stern professionalism. "Keep an eye on her," he tells the third officer, Morales, then strides toward the trunk. Elena strains to see around them, panic spiking. "What are you doing? You can't plant evidence. That's criminal," she shouts, rainwater running down her face like tears she refuses to shed. Morales shifts awkwardly beside her, boots squeaking on wet pavement. His gaze flicks from Elena to his colleagues at the trunk, guilt flickering across his face. For a brief second, their eyes lock, and she sees raw shame buried under his training. "I know exactly what you're doing," Elena yells, projecting her voice for any hidden microphones or onlookers. "This is a setup." Hale turns, expression grave, though his eyes gleam with thinly veiled satisfaction. "Ms. Brooks," he begins. He lifts a Ziploc bag packed with white powder, heavy and neatly compressed. "You've got a serious problem here. Care to explain this? 3 kilos, professionally wrapped, street value well over $150,000. Elena's chest goes cold. "That is not mine." she shouts. "You know damn well it's not mine. You just planted it." Hale's disappointment is pure theater. A respected public defender moving narcotics? Tragic, he says mildly, then jerks his chin toward Briggs. "Cuff her." Briggs seizes Elena's wrists, yanking them behind her with unnecessary force. Cold steel bites into her skin as the handcuffs lock tight. "Elena Brooks, you're under arrest for possession with intent to distribute a controlled substance," he recites. She twists against his grip. "This is a frame job," she insists. "You're doing this because of my father, because I've been investigating you." Hale leans in, voice dropping so only she can hear. "Your father couldn't prove anything either," he murmurs. "Look how that ended for him." Elena's muscles tighten. "I want my phone call. I want my attorney present for all questioning," she demands. "Of course," Hale replies more loudly. "You'll receive every constitutional protection, counselor." Morales retrieves her purse from the passenger seat, carefully not meeting her eyes. "Should I log her personal belongings now or at booking?" he asks. "At the station," Hale snaps, thrusting the bag toward Briggs, who shoves it into an evidence sack. Briggs guides Elena toward the cruiser, slamming her shoulder into the doorframe on the way in. Pain shoots down her arm as he forces her onto the vinyl seat. Through the rain-smeared glass, she watches Hale place a phone call, posture radiating triumph. She knows the script. By dawn, the headline will read, "Captain Hale nabs corrupt public defender with drugs." Her career, her father's name, and months of quiet investigation obliterated in one carefully staged night. As the patrol car pulls away, Elena glances toward the storefront where the shadowy figure had stood. The doorway is empty now. Whoever filmed has disappeared. At 6:17 a.m., the Millfield Morning Herald site refreshes. Public defender arrested on drug charges. By sunrise, Elena's mugshot dominates local feeds. Drenched hair, hollow eyes, framed by accusations that make her look guilty before she's spoken a word. In the county jail's day room, inmates watch Hale's press conference on a flickering TV. Elena stands motionless, still in yesterday's rain-soaked clothes, arms wrapped around herself against the institutional chill. It's always troubling when someone entrusted with justice betrays that trust, Hale tells reporters, face arranged in practice regret. Ms. Brooks's position as a public defender makes this all the more disappointing. A reporter calls out, "Captain Hale, is it true she was investigating police misconduct?" Hale's answer is ready. "Ms. Brooks has made numerous unfounded accusations against this department for years," he replies. "We believe this arrest sheds light on her motives for attacking honest officers' integrity." The camera shifts to District Attorney Mercer. "Effective immediately," Mercer announces, "Ms. Brooks's license to practice law in this county is suspended pending further investigation. All active cases assigned to her will be reassigned." Elena's clients, mostly poor, mostly people of color, will now face the system alone. The timing is surgical. Her phone and laptop, seized as evidence, now sit under Hale's control. The newscast shows Hale shaking hands with Judge Leonard Hayes, who's scheduled to preside over Elena's arraignment. Inmates exchange knowing looks. One young woman steps closer to Elena. "They did that to my brother last year," she murmurs. "Said they found meth in his trunk during a stop. He's still locked up." The report moves on to the weather while guards walk in. "Brooks, arraignment in an hour," one calls. Elena straightens her spine. The system she served is closing around her. But they've miscalculated. They assume she never planned for this. Metal doors slam behind her as she's escorted to cell block D. Orange jumpsuit, slip-on shoes, rigid choreography, dehumanization by design. Guards who once nodded politely when she visited clients now avert their eyes. Her new cell assignment feels intentional. She's placed with Keisha Morgan, a former nurse arrested 3 months earlier for drug possession, a case Elena remembers having Hale's fingerprints all over it from the very beginning. "Never thought I'd see you in orange," Keisha whispers after lights out. Darkness always makes the truth feel a little safer. "I didn't do this," Elena answers quietly. "None of us did." Keisha shifts on the thin mattress. "They got Johnson last year. Martinez before that. Lopez too. Always the same story. Traffic stop, surprise drugs." Elena sits up, chains clinking softly. "All minorities?" she asks. "Every last one. And we all pissed off Hale in some way," Keisha replies. "What was your connection?" Elena presses. "I worked ER," Keisha says. "Treated a kid who came in beat half to death after being in police custody. I filed an incident report like I was supposed to." Her voice tightens. 2 weeks later, Hale himself pulls me over. Rest is history. Through the night, Keisha sketches a recurring pattern. At least 7 people framed over 3 years, all linked to Hale or his closest officers, all after challenging their authority somehow. "Why hasn't anyone fought this?" Elena asks. "With what?" Keisha gives a bitter laugh. "From inside here? Evidence disappears. Witnesses magically change their stories. Public defenders are drowning under caseloads. Nobody's got time to mount a crusade. And now they took out the only one who tried." Midnight count interrupts them. Flashlights sweep across their cell, lingering a second longer on Elena's face. When the guards move on, Keisha mutters, "They're watching you extra close. You scare them." Elena stares at the cracked ceiling. "My father was investigating Hale 8 years ago," she whispers. "Then they found drugs in Dad's locker. Weeks later, they called it suicide." Keisha is quiet a moment. "You never believe that," she says. "Not once," Elena replies. She turns on her side, facing her cellmate. "Hale thinks he destroyed everything my dad and I collected. He's wrong." Keisha frowns. "You backed it up?" "Better," Elena says. "I built my whole life as a contingency plan. I've been recording everything for months." On visitation day, an unexpected figure appears in the non-contact booth. A man in uniform sits across from Elena, separated by scratched plexiglass. "I don't know you," she says into the plastic handset. "I know you," he answers, "by reputation, and your father's case too." His nameplate reads Carter. "You're Hale's guy," Elena says flatly. "I'm nobody's guy but the public's," Officer Liam Carter replies, glancing at the surveillance camera in the corner. "Transferred from Chicago PD 3 months back. Been seeing things that don't add up here." Elena keeps her expression blank. "Like what?" "Evidence logs that don't match reports. Body cam gaps. Officers with side incomes bigger than their salaries." Carter lowers his voice. "Hale runs this place like his own racket. Question him, and you get shipped to the worst shifts in the worst neighborhoods." Elena studies him carefully. "So why risk talking to me? I'm radioactive right now." "Because I checked your history," Carter says. 15 misconduct complaints you filed on officers in the last 3 years. Thorough documentation each time. All dismissed like they never existed. His eyes hold hers. "That doesn't happen by accident." Elena exhales slowly. "So what are you really doing here, officer?" He leans close, voice barely audible. Chicago Internal Affairs sent me. Multi-jurisdictional task force. Your arrest lit a fire under them. A guard announces, 5 minutes. Elena scoffs loudly. I don't buy it. Then softer, still in character for the cameras, prove it. Carter slides a plain white business card along the ledge. My personal number, he says. Memorize it. As he stands, Elena asks, Did you know my father? Carter pauses. Only by reputation. His cases had the highest integrity rate in the unit. Nobody who worked with him believed he was dirty. The guard steps up. Time's up. Carter raises his voice slightly. Think about that plea deal, Brooks. It's your best shot. He walks away. Elena cups the card in her palm, fingers tracing the handwritten digits before she slips it into the seam of her jumpsuit. Alley, or elaborate trap. He's still the only lifeline she's had to the outside since her arrest. Courtroom 3 feels unfamiliar from this side of the defense table. Shackles cold around her wrists and ankles, Elena can feel every stare. The gallery is packed with former clients, colleagues, curious locals, and reporters sniffing for scandal. Nina sits in the front row, notebook open, pen already moving. Judge Leonard Hayes enters, his country club tan obvious even under black robes. Elena has watched him torpedo meritorious defense motions before. Now she's the one in chains. Bail hearing, case number 2025 CR 101, State versus Brooks, the clerk announces. Hayes barely glances at Elena. Her court-appointed lawyer, an old coworker named Mueller, looks uneasy as he rises. Your Honor, Ms. Brooks has deep community ties and no criminal history. She's an officer of the court. We're requesting reasonable bail. District Attorney Mercer steps to the lectern, jaw set. Your Honor, the defendant was apprehended with 3 kilos of cocaine, street value in excess of $150,000. Her position as a public defender makes this breach of trust especially egregious. Mueller responds, Ms. Brooks maintains the evidence was planted in retaliation for her investigations into police misconduct. Hayes frowns. These are serious allegations against decorated officers, Counselor. They require serious proof. That proof is contained on her seized devices, Mueller insists. We move to have her phone and laptop independently examined. Mercer cuts in smoothly. Those devices are being processed as evidence in what appears to be her drug distribution network. They also contain privileged client information that must be reviewed with extreme care, not shipped out for fishing expeditions. Hayes nods almost immediately. Motion denied. Bail is set at $1 million. A collective gasp ripples through the room. The figure is punitive, designed to keep her exactly where she is. Your Honor, Mueller protests, that's excessive for a first-time nonviolent offense. Hayes doesn't waver. Given Ms. Brooks's familiarity with the legal system and extensive connections to criminal elements through her work, the court finds significant flight risk. He bangs his gavel. Next case. As guards move in, Elena catches Nina's eyes and gives the smallest nod. Their fallback plan, discussed in hushed tones years ago, is engaged. Judge Hayes watches Elena be led away, then checks his phone beneath the bench. A text from Hale glows on the screen. Appreciate it. Drinks at the club Saturday? Back at the public defender's office, tension buzzes like faulty fluorescent lights. Elena's desk is sealed with bright evidence tape, her case files stacked in cardboard boxes awaiting review. Conversations hush when Nina steps inside, press badge visible on her lanyard. She offers the receptionist a sympathetic but professional smile. I'm covering the case backlog now that my sister's off the docket, she explains. Human interest angle. Clients left in limbo. While interviewing Elena's supervisor in a cramped conference room, Nina spots Detective Lawson loitering near the file room, watching her with twitchy vigilance. Their eyes meet for a moment before he hurriedly looks away. Later, alone in Elena's office, Nina quietly photographs the desk, the boxes, the way certain files are missing from their usual places. Something's been cherry-picked. She plugs a USB drive into Elena's desktop tower using an old password they've shared since high school. The monitor flickers, then displays a nearly empty drive. Directories exist, but everything meaningful has been wiped. Out in the parking lot, Lawson watches from an unmarked sedan, windshield wipers beating a steady rhythm. His phone rings. Hale. They're in her office now, Lawson says. The sister's snooping around. Reporter. Did you secure everything? Hale demands. All the physical files on Johnson, Morgan, and Lopez, Lawson answers. Her computer was already clean when we got there. What about off-site backups? Cloud accounts? Email? Hale presses. Lawson hesitates. It says there's no sign of external storage, he lies, stomach twisting. She's too smart not to have insurance, Hale snaps. Find it. The call ends. Lawson stares at his trembling hand, an 18-year veteran with a pension just 3 years away. He's watched Hale's operation grow from petty skimming to something monstrous, and he's helped bury the evidence. Harold Brooks's case 8 years ago had been the breaking point, but Lawson stayed silent. Now, watching Nina leave the building with her jaw set and recorder in hand, he sees Harold's defiance mirrored in her stride. He starts his engine, then kills it. Instead of pulling out, he reaches into the glove box for a cheap prepaid phone he bought yesterday. In his contacts, only one number is saved, under a single name, Carter. The real question is timing. Will he flip soon enough to matter? Back in county lockup, Keisha leans close at lunch, using the clatter of trays and shouted orders as cover. There's a warehouse near the river, she murmurs. West Side Storage. Unit 17. Hale meets his boys there a couple of times a month. Elena's fork pauses halfway to her mouth. How do you know? My ex worked security, Keisha says. He saw expensive cars roll in heavy and drive out light. Cameras malfunction every time they show. Keisha pokes at her food. On paper, the place belongs to Clearwater Holdings. They're supposed to import furniture. Elena's pulse jumps. Clearwater Holdings, she repeats quietly. That name was all over my father's notes. Keisha nods. Your dad was close. Too close. She lowers her voice further as a guard strolls past. Hale's not just planting evidence. The coke is real. They confiscate it from actual dealers, then move it themselves through that warehouse. Cops as their own cartel. That's federal RICO territory, Elena breathes. My bail hearing's tomorrow, Keisha says suddenly. If I walk out, don't you dare go near that place. Elena shakes her head. If you disappear, they'll know we talked, she counters. A shadow drops over their table. Officer Briggs, smirking. Brooks, your lawyer's here, he announces. Elena stands, smoothing her jumpsuit, and lets herself be escorted to the attorney room, already planning how to say what she needs without saying it directly. Mueller looks exhausted, dark circles deepening beneath his eyes. They're fast-tracking everything, he says, dropping into the plastic chair. Trial set for next Monday. Elena's stomach clenches. That's impossible, she says. Normal discovery alone takes weeks. Judge Hayes approved an expedited schedule, Mueller replies helplessly. The DA's office is offering a deal, 5 years if you plead guilty. Elena leans forward. I need you to get a message to Nina, she says. Tell her, Clearwater Holdings, Unit 17. Mueller blinks. They're monitoring my communications with your family, he warns. Then tell her I said to check Dad's fishing spot, Elena says calmly. She'll understand. She forces her face to stay neutral, aware of the camera in the corner. And I need you to request my personal property inventory from intake. Why, he asks. Just want to make sure they logged everything accurately, she says. Particularly my jewelry and my watch. She emphasizes the last word just slightly. Mueller still looks confused, but he nods. What he doesn't know, that vintage watch Elena wore during her arrest isn't just sentimental. Inside the case, behind the face, rests a micro SD card loaded with encrypted files, copies of her notes, spreadsheets, recordings, everything Hale thinks he's destroyed. Nina paces her small apartment, phone pressed tight against her ear. This is insane, she says. They're pushing her to trial in under a week. No full discovery, no real time to prepare. On the other end, Mueller sounds drained. Hayes is approving every request from Mercer like clockwork, he says. Your sister's boxed in. Nina swallows hard. What about the message? Something about Dad's fishing spot? And Clearwater Holdings, Unit 17. Ring a bell? Nina's knees nearly buckle. Yeah, she whispers. It does. Thank you. She hangs up, then drags an old, battered tackle box from the back of her closet. Her father's last possession untouched since his funeral. Inside, beneath tangled fishing line and dusty lures, lies a small waterproof bag. Nina's fingers tremble as she tears it open. A plain USB drive slips into her palm, heavier than it looks. She plugs it into her laptop, heart pounding against her ribs. A password prompt appears. Of course. She tries Harold's badge number. Access denied. She types their mother's birthday. Another rejection. A third attempt with Elena's bar admission date fails too. The cursor blinks, almost taunting. Nina leans back, rubbing her forehead. Her father always said, if you're going to hide something, hide it in plain sight, but in a way only family can see. She glances at an old photo of the three of them at a lake, Harold holding up a fish, Elena rolling her eyes, Nina mid-laugh. There has to be a pattern, something personal yet secure. Meanwhile, across town, Lawson sits alone in his kitchen, staring at the burner phone on the table. His regular phone buzzes with texts from fellow officers joking about the crooked lawyer finally getting hers. Lawson doesn't laugh. He remembers Harold's hollow eyes right before the department declared his death a suicide and moved on. Finally, he snatches up the prepaid and dials the single contact. Carter, a voice answers. Who is this? Lawson swallows. You don't know me, he says, but I know what's happening in Millfield, and I'm done watching from the sidelines. In county lockup, Elena lies awake, replaying every step of the night of her arrest, cataloging each movement, each camera, each possible witness. She thinks about the shadow in the doorway with a phone and silently prays they'll come forward, or at least upload the footage somewhere Hale can't reach. She also thinks about Carter's claim of an outside investigation. Trusting the wrong person now could finish what Hale started, but doing nothing guarantees he wins. Neither option feels safe. The next afternoon, Keisha returns from her bail hearing with a stunned look. They dropped my charges, she whispers as she sits on the bunk. Just dismissed. No explanation. Elena's eyes narrow. "They're cleaning house," she murmurs. "Too many cases linked to the same players. They think cutting you loose protects their bigger operation." Keisha looks shaken. "They said I'd be processed out by tomorrow." "Elena, I can—" "No," Elena cuts in. "Get clear, stay low. Wait for my signal." Keisha nods reluctantly. That night, Elena scribbles mental blueprints. The warehouse, Clearwater Shell Companies, the cluster of framed defendants, her father's dead-end investigation. Everything points back to Hale. All she needs is proof strong enough to shatter the illusion he's built. Morning brings yet another small cruelty. Her watch still missing from the official inventory Mueller managed to obtain. "They didn't log it," he says. "Just your earrings, bracelet, and purse." Elena hides her fury behind tight lips. If Hale has discovered the micro SD card, she's lost her strongest hand. But something in her gut says he hasn't. If he'd seen those files, she'd be in a different kind of danger already. Which means the watch is either hidden, forgotten, or waiting in a locker for someone to quietly destroy. Nina, meanwhile, cross-references Clearwater Holdings online, connecting it to shell corporations, the storage facility, and a surprising number of anonymous campaign donations to local officials. She overlays the company names with the list of clients Elena mentioned over late-night takeout. Johnson, Morgan, Lopez, and others who claim drugs appeared during traffic stops. The pattern sharpens. The same officers, the same neighborhoods, the same judges. Clearwater's corporate officers remain conveniently masked behind lawyers and P.O. boxes. Nina opens the encrypted drive window again, the password prompt blinking patiently. She squints at the lake photo on the wall, noticing for the first time the carved numbers on the dock. Her father had scratched them there the summer before everything fell apart. The date of their last family fishing trip. Nina types it into the password field. Month, day, year. The screen pauses, then opens. Folders bloom across the desktop. Clearwater, evidence rerouting, Hale, Harold's notes, and one labeled simply insurance. Nina covers her mouth as tears sting her eyes. Her father had trusted them to finish what he started. Now Elena's life depends on Nina moving fast and carefully. Back in her cell, Elena sits cross-legged on the bunk while Keisha folds her few belongings, preparing for release. "Whatever you're about to do," Keisha says, "do it smart." Elena manages a faint smile. "Smart is the only option I've got left." She closes her eyes, running through the steps. Get word to Carter without tipping Hale, protect Nina, and somehow keep herself alive long enough to testify. Outside, thunder rumbles again, like the town itself is holding its breath. Nina scrolls through folder after folder, each file another piece of the puzzle. Audio clips of Hale pressuring junior officers, scans of altered evidence logs, photos of seized drugs inventoried once, then relabeled or lost. Harold's handwritten notes detail connections between Clearwater shipments, police stings, and mysteriously vanished contraband. Nina copies the entire drive to an external backup, then encrypts that copy too. Whatever happens next, redundancy is survival. Her phone buzzes, a text from an unknown number. The message reads, "This is Carter. I'm with someone inside who wants Hale taken down. Don't reply. If you want to talk, post a classified AD in the Herald under fishing gear with the words storm coming in the description." Nina's fingers hover over the screen, resisting the urge to answer. Across town, in her cell, Elena stares at the ceiling, unaware that the evidence her father died for has finally resurfaced, and that Every move from here on out could be fatal. The failed passwords are a blur now that the drive finally opens. Rows of folders crowd the screen, surveillance shots, bank records, interview transcripts, sorted with obsessive precision. One directory, labeled Clearwater, holds property deeds and shipping logs for a warehouse owned by a shell company tied to offshore accounts. Before Nina can dig deeper, her doorbell rings. She yanks the drive free, pockets it, and checks the peephole. A delivery guy waits, cradling a small, nondescript box. Nina cracks the door, shoulders tense. "Nina Brooks?" "Yeah, need your signature." His tone is bored routine. After he leaves, she slides the chain back on and opens the package at her kitchen counter. Inside is a cheap burner phone and a folded note in Elena's looping handwriting. "Only power. This up if things go bad." One number saved. Trust no one else. Heart-pounding, Nina peers outside. A dark sedan idles across the street, two silhouettes clearly watching. She thumbs a quick text to her editor. "Taking emergency family leave. Call you tomorrow." Then she dials the one person she trusts beyond family. "Claire, it's me. Remember that corruption story I floated months ago?" On the other end, Claire Monroe, ex-FBI forensic accountant, now doing private consulting, doesn't miss a beat. "You finally tripped it?" "It just blew up," Nina says. "I need your brain and your badge history." "Where?" "Dad's cabin. Come alone. I'm almost sure I'm being tailed." The Brooks cabin sits 20 miles outside Millfield, tucked into a ring of thick pines. Harold bought it for lazy fishing weekends that never came often enough. Tonight, it's a war room. Nina spreads Harold's papers and her fresh discoveries across an old scarred table. Claire studies spreadsheets and bank ledgers, while Jason Vega, Nina's college buddy turned cybersecurity specialist, sets up encrypted comms. "These manifests don't match the customs data," Claire mutters. "Clearwater claims furniture, but these weights scream narcotics." Jason lets out a low whistle, fingers flying over his keyboard. "Your dad left breadcrumbs for days. GPS coordinates, dates, surveillance photos. He was building a full-on RICO case. Until Hale framed him and pushed him over the edge," Nina says, bitterness roughening her voice. Claire pauses over a memo. "Maybe not an edge he chose," she says quietly. "Harold requested a meeting with an FBI supervisor 5 days before he died. He never made it. That's not a coincidence." Jason's laptop chimes. "I've breached the storage facility's security feed," he announces. 4 cameras. Loading dock. Warehouse floor. Office hallway. Front gate. Grainy black and white footage of Unit 17 fills the screen. Hours of nothing crawl by. Then at 2:17 a.m., 3 marked cruisers glide in. Captain Hale steps out first, followed by Briggs and 2 other officers Nina doesn't recognize. They unlock the unit and lug duffel bags inside, moving like they've done this 100 times. "Those aren't evidence bags," Claire notes. "No tags, no chain of custody tags, no logs. Straight street-level packaging." Jason narrows his eyes. "I'll run facial recognition on those 2 unknowns." 30 minutes of recorded time later, the officers re-emerge. The duffels are gone. Instead, Hale hands thick envelopes to each man. "Cash disbursement," Claire murmurs. "Kickbacks," Nina swallows. "Can any of this actually stand up in court?" Claire sighs. "Illegally accessed feeds are radioactive, but this tells us exactly where to look, legitimately." Jason suddenly curses under his breath. "One of those guys is a Lieutenant Pierce, head of internal affairs." Nina's phone vibrates. The burner flashes an incoming call from Carter's number. She answers. "We've picked up chatter. Officer Liam Carter says, Hale's pushing through a major shipment tomorrow night. Roughly $5 million in product. Biggest load yet. Nina tightens her grip. How do you know? Detective Lawson flipped, Carter replies. He wants limited immunity. He's willing to wear a wire on the run. We need more time, Nina says. Elena's trial kicks off Monday. Exactly, Carter replies. That's why Hale scheduled it. Once she's convicted, his reputation's bulletproof. The call drops. The next day, Nina parks outside the Millfield Chronicle, her workplace of 6 years. She's supposed to be on leave, but she needs access to court dockets. As she steps from her car, a black SUV rolls up alongside. The window hums down, revealing Hale's cool, familiar smile. Miss Brooks, he calls pleasantly. Some weather we're having. Nina's stomach flips, but her voice stays steady. Captain Hale, small town, small sidewalks. Not exactly random, he replies, stepping out. He gestures toward a small park across from the newsroom. Walk with me. They cross to the empty green space, benches slick with earlier rain, no one close enough to hear. Your sister is in a great deal of trouble, Hale begins, conversationally. Because you planted drugs in her car, Nina answers. Hale chuckles softly. More accusations, zero proof. Must be a family hobby. His smile goes flat. I know what you're up to, the cabin. Your late-night strategy sessions with Monroe and Vega. Your little peek at Clearwater's warehouse feed. Ice slides through Nina's veins. You've got your facts twisted, she lies. I write about school levies and zoning meetings. You're smart, Hale says. Use that intelligence. Elena's staring down 20 years, minimum. The DA might entertain mercy if certain projects quietly vanish. Is that a threat? Nina asks. I'm presenting you with an option, Hale replies. You drop this amateur investigation and convince Elena to accept the deal. 5 years. With good behavior, she's home in 3. And if I don't, she presses. His eyes harden. Prisons are dangerous, especially for ex-attorneys who helped lock up a lot of angry men. Guards get distracted. Doors don't always latch. Accidents happen. A jogger nears and Hale steps back, mask of professionalism snapping into place. Think about your sister's safety, Ms. Brooks, he says, tone light again. You've got until tomorrow. He strolls away, phone already at his ear. Nina stumbles back to her car, fingers shaking so badly she drops her keys twice. On the passenger seat lies a manila envelope that definitely wasn't there before. The doors were locked. Inside is a single photo. Nina entering the cabin yesterday, time-stamped. Across the bottom, in thick red marker, someone has scrawled, "We're watching!" Adrenaline surges. Instead of heading into the Chronicle, Nina guns the engine and drives straight back to the cabin. She bursts through the door. We have to change everything, she says. Claire looks up from her screen. What happened? Hale confronted me, Nina replies. He knows about this place, about you two, about the warehouse footage. We're burned, Jason swears. So what's the pivot? We find the others, Nina says. Everyone he's framed. We show it's a pattern, not a fluke. Hinani. Claire arches a brow. Other victims? Elena's cellmate told her there were at least 7 over 3 years, Nina answers, dumping printouts on the table. Cases she'd quietly collected before Hale's threat. We track them down. Get statements. Link their stories. Jason cross-checks names against arrest logs. Marcus Johnson, he reads, community organizer, leading protests against police brutality before he was hit with possession with intent. Elena Martinez, Claire adds, scanning a file, teacher who filed a complaint after her brother was hospitalized during an arrest. All people of color, Nina notes. All had crossed Hale or his guys. And all got stuck with public defenders drowning in caseloads, Jason says. Fits. No time to fight, forced into pleas. By midnight, they've identified 5 victims besides Elena and Keisha. Every file looks the same. Traffic stop, miraculous discovery of drugs, sky-high bail, rushed trial schedule, heavy pressure to plead out. Carter calls again. Lawson confirmed the shipment, he says. Tomorrow at 11. Product distributed by Sunday night. Why the speed? Nina asks. Hale's rattled, Carter answers. You're digging. Elena's paper trail. It's closing in. He's trying to cash out and lock down the narrative. We still need the others, Nina insists. We need them ready to testify. Too risky right now, Carter says. Hale's watching them, but there's more. The dashcam video from Elena's arrest, it's been edited. There's an 8-minute gap right when Briggs is at her trunk. Nina grits her teeth. Can you prove manipulation? Not from copies, Carter says. We'd need the original on the department server. Claire cuts in on speaker. I found something new in Harold's archive, she says. Quarterly cash deposits, 50 grand each, into Hale's offshore account. Been happening for 9 years. Nina goes silent. Right after Dad started asking questions, she whispers. And there's more, Claire adds. 5 days before Harold died, he mailed a package to a federal prosecutor in Chicago. No record of what was inside. Jason glances at the wall clock. We've got 72 hours until Elena's trial opens. Hale's big shipment hits tomorrow night. We're past the point of playing safe. The next day, Nina secures a jail visit with Elena, their last face-to-face before Monday. In the buzz of the visiting room, background conversations create a smokescreen. Hale came after me, Nina murmurs. He knows about the cabin, Claire, Jason, the warehouse. Elena's expression stays calm for the cameras. They've accelerated everything, she says softly. Judge Hayes denied every discovery motion. Mueller's swamped. We found Dad's hidden drive, Nina continues. The warehouse evidence, offshore accounts, all of it. Carter says Hale moves a huge shipment tomorrow. Elena's eyes narrow. You've been talking to Carter? She asks. Be careful, Nina. We still can't be certain he's clean. Lawson is wired tomorrow night, Nina says. He's flipping. Elena leans closer. Listen. My watch, the one Dad gave me, they logged it with my personal effects. There's more to it than sentimental value. There's a micro SD card tucked in a hidden slot in the clasp, Elena explains. Hale doesn't realize what's on it. What's on it? Nina asks. 6 months of recordings, photos, documents, Elena answers, all mirrored to a secure cloud account. Password is the date Dad died, reversed. Month, day, year, flipped. A guard approaches. 2 minutes. Nina nods briskly. What about your phone and laptop? Decoys, Elena replies. They'll keep Hale busy. The real case lives on the watch and the server. We're running out of road, Nina says, standing as the guard hovers. Trial Monday, shipment tomorrow night. It can't be random. It isn't, Elena replies firmly. He's clearing the board before the big move. As Nina is led out, Detective Lawson enters, ostensibly to meet another inmate. Passing their table, he accidentally drops a folded slip of paper that skids under Elena's chair. In the bathroom later, Elena opens it. Hale has sources inside Chicago FBI. Carter checks out. Internal affairs, Pierce is dirty. The note ends. 48 hours until transfer to state. Hale controls guards there. Elena's window to act is narrowing. Outside, Nina discovers all 4 tires slashed on her car. A note flaps under the wiper. Last warning, walk away. She calls Claire and Jason from the curb. They just escalated, she says. Sunday morning dawns gray. 36 hours to trial. 14 until the shipment. Back at the cabin, Jason leans over his hardware. We need that watch, he insists. Claire nods. Without concrete evidence, we've got mostly circumstantial patterns, strong, but still vulnerable. The burner rings again. Carter. Hale ordered a mandatory briefing tonight, he says. It's cover for the shipment run. Lawson will be wired. I've been assigned to prisoner transport tomorrow. That makes no sense, Nina protests. Elena's trial is at 9. Why move her to state at 6 a.m.? A new classification, high-risk defendant? Once she's at state, she vanishes into paperwork, Carter replies grimly. The line goes dead. Silence settles over the cabin like fog. We move now, Claire decides. Nina, push Mueller to request Elena's personal property returned for consultation. Jason, get your drones and surveillance ready for tonight at Clearwater. Jason lifts a compact case, already configured, industrial drone, infrared, 4-hour battery. We'll see everything. Claire pulls out her still valid bureau credentials. Technically, I'm on leave, but these still open doors. I'll track down the Chicago federal prosecutor Harold contacted. And me? Nina asks. You go back to where Elena was pulled over, Claire says. Talk to every shop owner, every tenant. If we're lucky, somebody has independent footage. Nina drives to the intersection on Millfield's east side. A grimy gas station sits opposite the spot where Elena's car was boxed in. Inside, the clerk squints at her press badge. You're that reporter, he says, the one with the lawyer sister. Did you see anything that night? Nina asks quietly. He hesitates. I don't need trouble. My sister's innocent, Nina says. They set her up like they did others. Please. He glances toward the back office. Our outside camera points straight at that corner, he whispers. Cops asked. My boss told them it was down, but it wasn't. He just didn't want to get involved. Do you still have it? She asks. Company keeps backups 30 days, he says, sliding her a USB stick. If this gets traced, I'm fired. In her car, Nina plugs in the drive with trembling hands. The footage is crystal clear. She watches Briggs walk to Elena's trunk, pull a package from inside his jacket, and tuck it under the lining. No ambiguity, no plausible alternative explanation. It's all there, she calls Claire immediately. I've got video proof, she says. They planted the drugs, no way around it. Sunday evening, Mueller visits Elena with paperwork to sign. Hidden among it is a note from Nina. The message confirms the gas station footage and Lawson's cooperation. New development, Mueller says aloud, for the benefit of the recorder. The prosecutions adjusted their plea terms. Elena hears the code. They have something big. Playing along, she flips through the documents, then slides Mueller a small note listing the property room, locker number for her watch, and Logan credentials for the cloud backup. I'll need time to think about this offer, she says, raising her voice slightly. After Mueller exits, another visitor appears. Carter, officially there to review transport protocols. Everything's set for tonight, he murmurs once they're close enough. Lawson's wired. Shipment hits at 11. FBI eyes are on the scene, but they need Hale physically tied to the product. Nina has the gas station video, Elena says. Good, Carter answers, but we still need tangible evidence that Hale is running the pipeline. Your recordings could do it, but catching him in real time seals it. There's a trick compartment in my watch, Elena says. Besides the SD card, there's a GPS chip I slipped into Hale's cruiser months ago. It logs everywhere he goes. Case Carter blinks. That's how you knew about Clearwater? Part of it, she replies. I've tracked every suspicious stop. Every time drugs appeared, every late-night warehouse visit, and matched it with cash movements into his offshore accounts. Why didn't you go to the Fed sooner? Carter asks. I tried, Elena says. After what they did to my father, I knew I needed something airtight. Every attempt I made to reach Chicago was followed by a spike in arrest here. Someone over there is feeding Hale. Any idea who? Carter asks. She shakes her head. No names, but everything on that card is mirrored to a dead man's trigger server only Nina can open. If I die or vanish, it pushes to every major newsroom and agency in the state automatically. Carter studies her, a new respect in his eyes. You weren't just defending clients, he says. You were baiting a trap. Hale thought framing me would end my work, Elena replies quietly. Instead, he walked straight into it. Monday, 5:30 a.m. Elena waits in chains, dressed for transport, pulse steady. Hale himself appears outside her cell, flanked by Briggs and another officer. Captains don't usually micromanage transfers. Excited for your big day, counselor? He asks, smirking. I'm looking forward to the record being corrected, Elena answers. Hale laughs. Optimism, cute. Shame about those technical problems with dashcam storage. Glitches happen, she says. Like the malfunction at the gas station across from my stop. The one whose footage shows Briggs planting your cocaine. His grin falters. Or the GPS tracker stuck in your cruiser, mapping every late-night trip to Unit 17 at Clearwater. Hale's mask slides, just for a second. He jerks his head, sending the others away. Alone in the hallway, his voice drops to a hiss. You really think you can outmaneuver me? You and your journalist sister? You already underestimated my father, Elena says. You killed him when he got close. You're making the same mistake twice. Harold got sloppy, Hale snarls. He accused without evidence, like father, like daughter. Difference is, I have evidence, Elena replies. Hours of it. Copies scattered where you'll never reach. For the first time, doubt flickers across his face. Bluffing won't save you, Hale says. This is over. You're right, Elena answers. It is. For you. The cell door opens again. Mueller steps in, followed by Claire. Behind them stands Assistant U.S. Attorney Jordan Reyes from Chicago. Captain Marcus Hale, Reyes says, lifting a document. This is a federal warrant for your arrest on charges including narcotics trafficking, evidence manipulation, corruption, and racketeering conspiracy under the RICO statute. Hale's hand twitches toward his gun. A voice behind him barks. Don't! Carter stands in the doorway, weapon aimed steadily. Game's up, Captain. Hale's lip curls. You? He spits. You've been reporting to them? I've been embedded with the federal task force for almost a year, Carter replies. You're done? As agents move in to cuff Hale, Elena steps closer, holding out Harold's old watch. My father mailed his files to Chicago 5 days before he died, she says. They never stopped looking into you. Hale's face contorts with rage as cuffs click around his wrists. He recorded more than you realized, Elena says softly. You were sloppy back then. Outside, dawn breaks over the Millfield courthouse steps, now jammed with cameras and reporters. U.S. Attorney Laura Kent addresses the crowd from a podium flanked by FBI agents, federal prosecutors, and Elena free. For the first time in nearly a week, orange jumpsuit traded for a plain silhouette borrowed from Nina. Nina squeezes her sister's hand as flashbulbs pop. Today concludes an 8-year federal probe into one of the largest police corruption schemes in this state's history, Kent announces. Captain Marcus Hale and 11 officers from the Millfield Police Department face charges including drug trafficking, evidence tampering, witness intimidation, and racketeering. She describes how the operation seized narcotics from legitimate busts, then recycled them into the streets while framing anyone who threatened their power. Activists, complainants, even fellow officers. News broadcasts loop dramatic footage. Hale and his crew marched out of Clearwater's warehouse in cuffs during last night's raid. Pallets of cocaine shrink-wrapped behind them. Agents escort Lieutenant Pierce, the supposedly clean Internal Affairs chief, into a waiting car. Another clip shows a Chicago-based agent leading a handcuffed bureau official away, the mole who tipped Hale off for years. This investigation began with Detective Harold Brooks, Kent continues. His daughter, public defender Alina Brooks, risked everything to finish his work. Kent announces that all charges against Elena are dismissed with prejudice. Judge Hayes tenders his resignation hours before impeachment proceedings begin. District Attorney Mercer faces disbarment hearings for collaborating in cover-ups and rubber-stamping Hale's cases. Detective Lawson receives limited immunity in exchange for his testimony, helping identify 7 wrongfully convicted people created by Hale's frame-ups. Each of those convictions is vacated. New hearings are ordered. Inside the precinct, workers unbolt Hale's nameplate from his reserved parking spot and toss it into a box. Upstairs, Carter oversees as sealed evidence boxes are logged properly for federal custody. No more backroom disappearances. Months pass. 6 months after Hale's arrest, Elena stands behind a podium in the freshly renovated Millfield Community Center. A new plaque gleams on the wall, the Harold Brooks Justice Initiative. Today, we launch a program dedicated to representing and supporting people harmed by systemic injustice, she tells the packed room. No one should have to navigate this machine alone, especially when it's rigged against them. The initiative's first clients sit in the front row. The 7 people Hale framed, now fully exonerated. Keisha Morgan is among them, dressed in a blazer instead of prison blues, recently hired as the center's outreach director. Under federal oversight, the Millfield Police Department looks very different. Carter, now interim chief, has rolled out mandatory body cams, civilian review boards, and transparent evidence tracking software. Applications from officers of color and reform-minded recruits spike, tripling previous numbers. It isn't perfect, but it's movement. Claire left the FBI to join Elena full-time as lead investigator, using her forensic skills to unwind dirty paper trails. Jason built a secure, anonymized reporting platform that lets whistleblowers upload documents and video without exposing their identities. Nina's investigative series, Badges and Betrayal, wins a National Journalism Award and triggers inquiries in 3 neighboring counties with eerily similar patterns. After the ceremony, Elena drives out to the cemetery, a bouquet in one hand, Harold's watch in the other. She kneels by her father's headstone, newly replaced. It now reads, Detective Harold Brooks, 1962 to 2017, killed in the line of duty. She sets the watch beside the flowers. "We finished it, Dad," she whispers. "Hale's going to die in federal prison. Your name is clean." The official inquest recently reclassified Harold's death as homicide. Charges against Hale continue to stack up. From his cell, he still claims he was framed. Elena straightens. feeling grief and vindication twist together in her chest. She notices Carter waiting a respectful distance away near the walkway. The man who once introduced himself as nobody's officer, but the public's, has become an unlikely ally. "He'd be proud," Carter says when she approaches, "of what you did, of what this place is becoming." "We've barely scratched the surface," Elena replies. "Taking down one corrupt network doesn't fix all the rest." Carter nods. "No, but it sends a message." Elena looks back at the headstone. "It's a beginning." Her phone buzzes in her pocket. A text from Nina, new whistleblower from the county sheriff's office, says they've got another Hale situation brewing. Elena exhales, half weary, half energized. Justice, she realizes, isn't a destination you arrive at and unpack your bags. It's a road you keep walking, case after case. Across town, Nina drafts a new intake form while Jason reinforces their digital defenses. Claire flags unusual asset transfers in another small city's budget, recognizing the same familiar rote. As the sun dips behind Millfield's patched-up skyline, sirens wail faintly in the distance, a reminder that the system they're trying to fix still chews people up every day. Elena adjusts her coat and leaves the cemetery, heading toward another long night of planning. Because for every Hale dragged into the light, there's someone else using a badge, a bench, or an office to hide behind. The work doesn't stop just because the headlines do. That's exactly why she won't stop either. If this story of resilience and accountability struck a chord with you, don't just click away. There are real Elenas and Harolds out there right now, fighting systems that would rather bury the truth than face it, supporting honest journalism, ethical officers, and legal advocates is one way to stand beside them. Sharing their stories is another. The more people who understand how these schemes work, the harder it becomes for the next Hale to operate in the shadows. At Black Culture Stories, we're committed to digging into narratives that powerful people would rather keep buried. We spotlight whistleblowers, community defenders, and survivors of injustice who refuse to stay silent. If what happened in Millfield reminded you of somewhere closer to home, that's not an accident. These patterns repeat. Our mission is to expose them, one case at a time, and to remind you that pushing back, even in small ways, matters more than cynicism ever will. So if you felt yourself rooting for Elena, Nina, Keisha, Carter, and the others, take that feeling and do something with it. Ask tougher questions about your own local institutions. Pay attention when someone says the system failed them. Support organizations that offer legal aid and investigative journalism. Stories like this aren't just entertainment. They're warnings, roadmaps, and rallying cries rolled into one. The more of us who listen, the louder those cries become, and the harder they are to ignore. Maybe you're someone inside the system, a cop, lawyer, clerk, or civil servant who's seen corners cut or evidence twisted. Maybe you've wondered if speaking up is worth the risk. Let Millfield's story answer that. One detective's unfinished work, one public defender's stubborn refusal to break, and one reporter's determination to keep digging toppled an empire that seemed untouchable. Change doesn't happen overnight, and it doesn't happen alone. But it does happen when ordinary people decide enough is enough. If you've ever felt powerless watching scandals unfold on the news, remember, every big expose starts with one person deciding to talk, one file quietly copied, one ordinary citizen hitting record on their phone. Black Culture Stories exist to amplify those moments and protect the people behind them by shining as much light as possible. We can't promise every whistleblower will get a Hollywood ending, but we can promise their voices won't vanish into the dark without a fight. That's why your engagement matters more than you might think. Likes, shares, and comments aren't just vanity metrics. They tell platforms and algorithms that stories about justice, corruption, and accountability deserve space in people's feeds. When you boost content that digs deeper than headlines, you help drown out the noise of distraction and outrage bait. You help keep focus on what actually affects people's lives. Who gets believed, who gets buried, and who finally gets their day in court. So if Elena's journey from framed defendant to reform leader inspired you, don't let that feeling fade when the video ends. Carry it into conversations with friends, family, coworkers. Ask what protections exist for public defenders, for inmates, for those making complaints against police where you live. When stories like this become part of everyday conversation, it gets a lot harder for local power brokers to shrug and say, "We had no idea," the next time a scandal cracks open. At Black Culture Stories, we'll keep following threads like the ones Harold left, looking for the next Clearwater, the next Hale, the next community on the brink of either collapse or change. We'll keep centering voices that big institutions would rather ignore. If that's the kind of storytelling you want more of in your life, subscribe to, not just stumbled upon, then this is your chance to join a community that refuses to look away when it counts. Hit that subscribe button if you believe in exposing the truth, even when it makes people uncomfortable. Drop a like. If you think ordinary folks pushing back can actually make a dent in corrupt systems, share this with someone who's tired of feeling like nothing ever changes and needs proof that persistence can crack even the hardest armor. Turn on notifications so you're there when we publish the next investigation, the next whistleblower's testimony, the next fight for accountability. Stories like Elena's don't just belong to Millfield. They belong to anyone who's ever questioned why some people seem to live above the law while others get crushed beneath it. They belong to communities where routine stops don't feel routine, where courtrooms feel like conveyor belts instead of halls of justice. And they belong to you because choosing to listen, to believe, and to act makes you part of the narrative, not just a spectator on the sidelines. If this episode lit a fire in you, don't let it go out. Keep asking hard questions. Keep supporting those who risk their safety and careers to tell the truth. And keep making room in your feed, your conversations, and your life for stories that matter more than fleeting headlines. Because corruption thrives in silence, and every view, every share, every conversation is one more crack in that silence, one more signal that people are paying attention, and they're not going anywhere. Black Culture Stories is here to keep turning up the volume on those cracks, amplifying the voices that power would rather mute. Subscribe to stay part of a community that values courage over comfort, truth over spin, and justice over convenience. Tap like if you stand with people like Elena and Harold, and share this story with someone who needs a reminder that fighting back isn't pointless. It's how change begins. Turn on notifications so you never miss the next story that someone doesn't want told. In Millfield, we see how fast a routine stop can steal a lifetime of work. Many of you have watched neighbors treated as suspects first and citizens second. Elena's frame-up reminds us dignity can vanish in a single traffic stop. Lesson 2. Harold and Elena show that careful records, notes, tapes, quiet courage can outlast lies. For those who've saved letters and documents for years, you know paper can speak when people are silenced. Lesson 3. Nina, Keisha, and Carter prove change is possible when ordinary folks link arms. At our age, we know the fight is long, but it's never over while we're breathing. Friends, after following Elena, Harold, and Nina through this fight, I truly value your perspective. In all your years watching this country change, what do you believe matters most in standing up to corruption, speaking out, carefully keeping records, voting, supporting honest officers, or something else entirely? Have you ever seen something in your own town that made you wonder if the system was being abused? Share your thoughts and stories in the comments, and please like this video, subscribe to my YouTube channel, and turn on notifications so more people can learn from your experience and wisdom.